In this video, we're going to create a drawing sheet in Views. After completing this step, you'll be able to create a 2D drawing from a 3D model and place views on a drawing sheet. In Fusion 360, we want to carry on with our blade guard assembly. We've already created an animation, but I'm going to navigate back to the design workspace because we're going to start by creating a detailed drawing of the assembly. To do this, I'm going to go into my drawing workspace from Design. We're going to be using the full assembly, creating a new drawing from scratch, and then we need to pick the standard, the units, and the sheet size. We have two options for standards, ISO and ASME. The ISO is the International Organization for Standardization, and ASME is the American Society of Mechanical Engineers. This follows the ANSI format of standard. There are some basic differences between this selection, so it's important to understand which one you need to use. ISO or ISO dimensions are going to be placed above the dimension line, while the ASME standard places them centered. ISO dimensions are parallel to the dimension line, while the ASME standards are horizontal. And in general, the ISO standard tends to use symbols, while ASME tends to use abbreviations. Of course, there are many more differences between the two, but those are some of the basics that you might notice when you're creating your drawings. For this example, we're going to use ASME, millimeters, and we're going to use the B sheet size and say OK. Once the drawing is created, we need to start by placing our first view. I'm going to place our first view from the front view in the upper left of our drawing. We need to determine the style, the scale, and edge visibility for our design. The edge visibility, by default, the tangent edges will be off. We can have them shortened or full length. It's going to depend on what your requirements are. We also can turn on interference edges and thread edges if needed. We're going to say OK and place our first drawing view. Once we have our first drawing view, generally what you would do is select the view and you would create projected views. For us, I'm going to project this out to the right, and then I'm going to project an isometric view down and to the right. We could also project a top or a bottom view. Again, it depends on what your base view is and what your requirements are. Once we're happy with our views, we can select the green check mark, or we can right-click and select OK. By default, each of these views is going to get its scale and its style from the parent view. If we want to change that, we can double click and we can modify any of these parameters. For example, if we wanted it to be shaded, or if we needed to change the scale. For now, we're going to leave all of ours the same. Let's take a look at some of the other views that we can create. We've got our projected view, which we've already created. And then we also have a section view, a detail view, and a break view. The break view is handy if you have an extremely long design, such as something that contains a weldment or a large beam. It doesn't really apply to our design, so we're going to focus on section view and detail view. I'm going to create a detail view, and I'm going to focus my attention in on the bolt. So I'm going to select the view that I want, and then I need to select the center point of a circle that I'm going to draw, and then I can place this view. I'm going to place it down and to the left, then I'm going to say OK. If the node is off the screen, we can select it, we can hold down the left mouse button on the gray box, and then we can move it to a new position. Now we have a 2-to-1 detail view based on what we drew from our isometric view. If we want to resize this at all, we can modify its position and have it update the scale and the detailed drawing. From here, let's take a look at creating a section view. Once again, we'll need to select a view, and then we'll need to draw a section line. Once we're happy with the section line we've drawn, we can drag the view off to the side. We can determine which objects we want to cut. For example, if we want to leave some of them uncut, we can turn these options on and off. For our example, we're going to cut through everything and say OK. Notice that it has hash marks or a hatch on the design. If we double click on it, we can modify the hatch based on specific standards. You can say OK, and now we've modified that section view. Once again, if the note needs to be moved, we can simply move it closer to our design. From here, let's make sure that we save our detailed drawing before adding any more elements. To do this for the first save, we simply click Save and it's going to automatically add Drawing to the end of the file name and place it in the same folder. We're going to select Save and then we can move on to the next step.